the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans. Pass the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans.
Pass the beans.
Pass the beans.
Pass the beans.
Pass the beans. The Beans Talk. You look ridiculous. Hey, Bean fam, it is the Beans Talk podcast, and we are four educators of color bringing you raw, authentic conversation about society views and community engagement. Everybody, I'm Fabs.
I'm Steph. What's up, y'all?
What's up, fam? It's Ro.
And this is TJ.
Already. Yeah, and we're back again with another episode, and excited to get started. So we're going to start out with the D now.
Yes, that's me. So I figure that in light of the pandemic that's sweeping the nation, I think that
sweeping the nation, bro.
I think we should just talk about like thoughts of like how you guys holding up during this time. I know for me, I have a 6-week kind of a vacation as an educator, really, right? But not really. It's just a virtual. It's just like you work from home. Like you have to grade at home. Students are now moving to Google Classroom, which is like kind of classes online.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we get 6 weeks just to be at home, which it's nice, but under the circumstances, it just feels kind of strange at the same time. So
yeah, definitely. I don't know. I feel like I'm okay right now. To be honest, I think if anything became more drastic in terms of like, if my freedom becomes stripped of me, then I would probably be like a little annoyed because
going ape shit.
Yeah, because I don't want to have to stay inside of a space for too long, and then like I feel like I'm in jail. Like that's something that for me is a problem. But other than that, like I feel like I don't know. I feel like right now it's being more amplified than what it actually is. Like the symptoms and stuff like that. I feel like the symptoms of the flu seem a lot worse than something like the coronavirus. I think if anything, it's probably a lot of people are concerned regarding like treatment or cure or something like that. But I mean, know.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that has it. I feel like it's a phantom virus. Like I don't know anyone who has it. I don't know anyone who knows anyone who has it. Like
because everybody you know is black, and what a time to be black.
No, I know some.
What a time!
I'm messing with you.
What a time to be melanated.
Yeah, but it feels like it's not. Like until I see someone or that I know or I know of someone that has had it, it just feels very like phantom.
Unreal.
Like, yeah.
I think the whole thing just feels very like unsettling and at an imbalance. It's not necessarily that I am giving in to the hype or like spreading the entire like fear narrative. I also just think that a lot of it is being amplified and people are kind of feeding into the fear culture around it.
Yeah.
But it's creating an imbalance because you can't operate in life as normal because of what's going on. So like hearing talk about, this possible whole month quarantine, and then you can't go into the grocery store and really get things without them being crowded. Like things are cleared off the shelf. So it just feels like a very unsettling time. And I think now is more important now than ever for people to just really hone into something positive and something nurturing or something that kind of fills your soul up. Because if not, that fear is contagious. That stuff can creep inside you. Yep, and consume you. So
like I know for me,
stay sanitized, folks.
For real. I know for me, like I'm catching myself just having to like disconnect from social media quick fast because I know myself, I get caught up in the hype. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'll be reading the different conspiracies and everything that people are putting out there on social media, and I'm like, fall back and just like relax. I'm like, because the minute you allow yourself to exist in that fear, like that's mad counterproductive, yo. Like I'm not gonna do shit.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to cripple the greatness that I have. And so I'm just having to just chill. But like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Tricky. Students emailing me and they're nervous and it's just too much. Like I'm literally just telling my babies like, yo, just chill, you good.
Yeah.
Just check Google Classroom, you good.
I think it could also, just be a time of opportunity. I mean, I feel like times like this is when you can be consumed with everything that's going on and really operate out of fear, or you can look at the opportunities that you have to really invest in yourself, invest in your future. It's just so many, I think, business opportunities that are coming out of this as well, and time for people to really step back from the hum and drum of the regular schedule and really step back and do some things for you. So this always just goes back to my, I think, dichotomy of the deficit mindset versus opportunity mindset. It's like you have to choose which one you want to embody. If you operate at a deficit, then you get deficit. If you operate at opportunity, then you get opportunity. And so I just think it's important for people to just make sure they have their mindset in the right place.
Very well said, Steph. And like just this last thought, I just feel like this pandemic has really made me assess, like it reminds me that our time on this earth is not eternal. Like our life and our time on this earth is like has a shelf life, and it just reminds me like to do what I have to do now that I'm here, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. I know that's like a kind of a like a doomsday type of thing to say, but it that's how it feels. It feels like, damn, like anything can happen at any time, and use this time that we have the best that we can. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
So we should we share some resources that are out there though for our folks in Boston.
Yes, definitely. What you got, Boo?
I have one. This one is from the Elevate Boston Foundation, and it's for all the chillins in Boston who largely depend on school lunch. It says, if you know a child depending on school lunch to eat, please send them to the breakfast spot that's at 2805 Washington Street in Roxbury from 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And that's Tuesdays through Fridays. They are partnering with several people to provide free lunch for the neighborhood youth. So if you are a student in Boston and you're looking for a good meal, please hit up the breakfast spot, because they are giving a free lunch buffet for Boston students. So
and you have to be a student, and like you can't be just like a normal. You can't be a teacher or anything.
I'm sure the kids eat first.
Yeah, I'm here for the kids.
Have you been at a black cookout? You know the kids eat first.
They always do,
right?
And they eat at a separate table too.
Oh goodness,
they do.
Another post that I had seen circulating on the web is the food and nutrition services of the Boston Public Schools will continue to provide meal pickup opportunities for students every weekday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the following locations. So for our cheerins out there, if you are anywhere near the North End, you can go to Gacy Park, DeFilippo Playground, which is located at 135 Prince Street. If you're in Charlestown, you can go to the Boys and Girls Club, which is located at 60 Green Street. If you're in Dorchester, head over to 370 Columbia Road. The Food and Nutrition Services Central Distribution Warehouse. This is where their loading dock is at. It's on Quincy Street. And if you're in East Boston, head over to the YMCA at 215 Bremen Street in East Boston. And if you have any questions, please reach out to any of the organizations, that I just said, or reach out to us. Like, we can give you more information.
Yeah, we can probably give some more sources. I know another one, Violence in Boston, Inc., and I think they're partnering with Food for the Soul, Grove Hall. They're doing a meal and supply relief. Meals are provided for lunch and dinner starting March 15th. Lunch is 12 to 2, dinner 5 to 8. It's off of Warren Street, 651 Warren Street. And that's actually a drop-off location. And you can also go there and grab some food, grab some meals. Right. And then another resource is foodforfree.org. I think they'll be able to help you find some more sources on where you could grab some food and some meals.
Cool.
Yeah.
During this time, man. Time.
Take care of yourselves out there, guys. Stay healthy, stay active, stay focused.
Yes, and remember.
Not too active, though, because, you spread the germ, spread the virus. So.
Okay. And just remember that.
Stay active, guys. Take care of your body.
Yes, remember that in these times filled with tragedy, there are also times filled with opportunity.
Yes.
So take advantage. All right.
Absolutely.
With that being said, y'all, we got the book club today.
Yes.
Hosted by Ro. De La Ro.
She in the building. All right. So you guys, I was way OD amped to actually get y'all to read The Alchemist with me. But before we even dive into The Alchemist, like I have to explain to y'all how this even came in my hands. So sometime last year, I was talking to a friend, and I have this ongoing list of books in my phone that I do want to read. And I was talking to my homeboy, and he was like, yo, you should really get into The Alchemist, yada, yada, yada. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I just added it to the list, but not at the top of the list. And literally, him and I had just finished having a conversation. And then a couple of days later, I'm on the Orange Line, and I'm sitting on the train, and I see this young man reading The Alchemist. And so as he's reading it, I'm like, oh my effing gosh. I was like, how do you like that book? The young man proceeds to tell me that he's actually read The Alchemist 27 times. Wow. And every time that he has purchased the book, after he finished reading it, he actually gifted it to somebody else.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yo, that's crazy. I was like, yo, this is actually one of the books that's on my list to read. And he was like, here you go. And so I'm like, what you mean? Here I go. Homie literally gave me The Alchemist. And I think what is so dope, you guys, so in the front cover, there appears to be like names of people before me who had the fucking book.
That's so beautiful.
Oh, that's why. That's great.
This is dope to me.
I was wondering why it was looking like an estranged Bible.
like this whoever Mahmoud.
That's so dope.
Mahmoud is the last person. Really I don't know if that's the name of the young man who was reading it, but Mahmoud was the last person to read it. So I think what I'll do, I'll probably cross out that name and put my name and then cross it out. Yeah,
and then give it to someone
else, man. And so
that's
when
beautiful.
I got real amped for us to read it. Like, I could not wait to share this piece of literature with you guys. And I'm so thankful that y'all took the time out of your busy schedules, school, writing of your own book, work on the state level. And I just appreciate that y'all found time to get into The Alchemist. And so I guess now that we have completed it, general thoughts around the book, and then I'll dive into 3 specific questions that I want y'all to answer. Okay. How'd you feel about it?
Disclaimer, I didn't complete the book.
Nigga.
I'm about halfway done, but I'm still going to contribute to the conversation because I am really enjoying what I read so far, and I do plan on continuing. So don't spoil it, y'all.
So I guess this episode is definitely going to be a spoiler alert. So definitely that's a good disclaimer.
But don't finish it though, bro.
Yes, I will.
I mean,
absolutely.
if the guy read his book 27 times, there's no reason why even after this discussion that you can't finish reading. I know for sure. Like, I got through most of the book, but there's still some more that I would, I still have to read through. But I definitely looked ahead into the book to see like where it went because I wanted to make sure I was fully prepared for this discussion, or as prepared as possible.
I appreciate that, fam.
But I think what's deep is the fact that you actually received this book from somebody else, and I think that speaks so much. So it speaks volumes.
Word.
Especially with the content.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? I was actually quite fascinated by that. I'm like, what? Somebody actually handed you this book?
Hear me out. I remember being amped telling Anthony, like, yo, my nigga, you're not going to believe what book I just got. Yeah, it's crazy. It's actually crazy.
That's insane. Yo, I think that's really dope.
The universe.
But yes, exactly. And I think really what this encompasses is an action, something like that, similar to that, like how something comes into your life and sometimes you don't even recognize how valuable it actually is until you actually take a little bit of time to let it sit with you, and then like soak that up and then recognize how much of an impact that's actually going to be on your life like later on. And so I don't know, that's my take on it.
So far I am really enjoying the prose in the book, that the author, how do you say his name?
I want to say Paulo
Lord. Coelho.
Go ahead, DJ.
He's Brazilian.
He is.
The writing style is almost like a fable. Like, it's very simple, very easy to read. Yeah. But it feels very deep. A lot of the beginning part where the kind of the shepherd goes to the old woman to have her decipher his dreams, and she's kind of surly, and she just tells him exactly what the dream says. I found that part, and I'm not super far into it, but I found that part poignant because it was almost like the book was like subtly saying to trust your dreams. Like you don't need an interpreter. The message that the dream was trying to tell him was exactly what the kind of psychic woman predicted it would be. So again, it's just like this idea of like following your dreams and almost like trusting your gut, like trusting your, which I found cool. So, but yeah, it's deep so far.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
I really enjoyed this book. I'm a huge advocate of this book, and thank you, Ro, again for bringing this, to our flock.
As we're shepherds.
Yes, as we're shepherds. No, but seriously, I really enjoyed this book. I equally agree that this is not something that you just read one time. I believe that this will be a piece of literature that I'll come back to it multiple times in my life. And I think just overall, my general reaction to reading the story and really delving into the characters and the messages and themes that come from it is that this is a real book about self-realization and transformation. And so I could see myself in several moments. I could pinpoint moments in my life that translate to moments of Santiago's, who's the main character of the book, and going along this journey to find treasure. And so it just made me just think about life, man, and just how we are each on our own paths and on our own journey to self-transformation and understanding more about the self and recognizing our own power and our own treasure. And so I'm really excited to dig into this a little bit more and
definitely
hear these questions, because I know they're gonna be deep just based off of what we read.
Man. And even for me, so like I said, I had heard about this book for the longest time, and as I was reading it, so I'm the type of person, when I read a book, I do so much scribing in the book, and I feel so bad for the next person who I gift this to, because they're gonna have all of my notes. But as I was reading, there were just so many gems in this short read. And I honestly can't remember the last time I read a book from front to cover, front to
cover to cover.
I can't remember the last time that I did that, but there were just so many gems in this book. And one of my favorite lines from the book, which was, I wish I had counted how many times it came up, but it was just talking about how when it's something that you really want, I'm trying to find it.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
The universe conspires to make it happen. I'm just trying to find it. It appeared so many times. So the first time we had heard it was when the old man, the king, was talking to Santiago. I'm just trying to find it. But just something about that, when it's something that you truly want and something that you truly desire, everything will line up to make that happen.
Yes. Yeah. And it reminded me of that phrase that they used throughout the book that was repeated as well. I think it's maktub.
Yeah, maktub. It is written.
It is written. Yes. And so my copy of this, and granted it is the PDF version.
It's fine, sis. It's
so
fine.
You guys can access this, for free.
Thief.
I thought you were gonna say freaks.
Yeah, no.
I know. But
that too.
There were so many. There were just so many good things inside of here. I don't even know where to start.
I could jump right in. I just don't. I don't know if the questions and stuff. But there was one part that I feel actually resonated with me a lot, where it's I don't know if this is the correct page, because I also have the PDF version. I'm gonna get the real one because I want to support the cause. But I numbered my own thing. It's on page 18 for me. I don't know what it might be for you guys.
Okay, baby.
But for me, it's it says the old man looked disappointed, but that's not the part. It says if you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you'll lose your desire to work towards getting it. And to me, that's actually something that I notice, period, that and from in myself and other people, is that oftentimes we want to disclose our desires and our excitement about something, and then once we disclose that the fire is gone. You know what I mean? That the way that we had the desire initially is not as strong as it was before. And so because you've already let that out, you've already put that out into the universe, and I feel like that's something that you should probably hold golden and hold to you, to your close to your soul before you decide to disclose that kind of information. That way you can at least start to take the necessary steps so that it can become or come to fruition. You know what I mean? And it comes through fruition through your own actions and not so much through your words. And that's something that I feel like I still need to work on. But that right there, I had to underline it and put an exclamation point next to it, because I was like, yo, old man was like disappointed in Santiago, like, bro, like, you know, you can't be promising things that you don't even have yet. And so it's like, this right here meant so much, because I'd be excited to say like a dope ass idea, like, and then after that, after it's already said, it's already been put out there, the excitement is not as heightened as it was before. So that was dope for me.
Yeah. Santiago, right from the start, I think he's a character that I think a lot of people can relate to. I mean, he's a character that we know that he wants to, you know, travel, and he goes against what his parents want. His parents want him to be a priest. And just that whole, there's a section, like, I don't know, like around page 10, where he talks about how, like, the priesthood that his dad wants him to be a part of, like, they get their answers from God, or he said that he doesn't want to get his answers from God, that he'd prefer to find his answers by experiencing the world around him. I think that's powerful, because one, it's not easy to go against what your parents push onto you. I think that in and of itself, when that happened at the start of the book, it hooked me. It hooked me. It made me on his journey with him, because we've all been there, like, where we prefer to go the kind of unbeaten path, instead of maybe taking a path that our parents would have preferred, or other people think is the right way for us to be. So
I thought it was, go ahead.
Well, I think to that, what I also appreciated about Santiago is his ability to absorb in and shift. I felt like Santiago was faced with many obstacles along his path and came up, I think, what word am I looking for? I mean, I guess head on with some very difficult decisions. But he, in the midst of those difficult decisions, had people who were like consumed with wisdom and telling him different pieces of information, and he absorbed those pieces of information and applied it to his life. He did. And so I just felt it fascinating how he was able to sort of listen to those things around him and actually put it into practice. I mean, how many times have we sat down and had conversations, or had people like talk to us about or give us wisdom or things that we should do, and then we ignore that advice, so we don't heed it. And I think it's always as simple as a mindset shift. And I think Santiago embodied the power of a mindset shift so beautifully inside of this book. I'm thinking about that one part where he had first started on his journey to get this treasure, and he had gotten robbed from someone that he had trusted. And then he had a moment where he was really consumed inside of that tragedy and inside of that disaster. He became very discouraged on continuing on. But then he had thought back to the king and the conversation he had with the king. And I thought this line was very powerful and deep. It says, as he mused about these things, and that's him thinking about the conversation he had with the old man or king who had given him the courage to start on this. He said he realized that he had to choose between thinking of himself as the poor victim of a thief and as an adventurer in the quest of his treasure. And he says, I'm an adventurer looking for treasure, he said to himself. So it's like we always have a choice about what it is that we want to do. And I think that oftentimes people, they victimize themselves and believe that they don't have a choice. You do have a choice.
You do.
Yeah.
You do have
Always.
a choice to listen to the people who are around you who are giving you wisdom. You do have a choice to shift your mindset and think about positive things versus the negative. And we hinder ourselves so much by thinking that the world happens to us and not that we happen to the world.
Right.
And I think that Santiago really embodied that message loud and clear, which allowed him, I think, to move through such a really tough and difficult quest.
Yes.
Because he was able to make the choices.
Yes, yes. And what I loved about Santiago, piggybacking on what you're saying, Steph, is that Brother Man was able to just like change his perspective. So there's a part in the story where he really just wanted to give up. And Santiago was like, damn, I'm 2 hours away from Spain. I can go back home. And he was just thinking like, oh, this is miserable, but this is miserable. But instead he was like, hold on. I'm 2 hours closer to the treasure of the pyramids in Egypt.
Yep.
So instead of thinking like, yo, throw all this shit away and give up, think about how much closer I've gotten to what I think my personal legend is.
Yeah.
Think about how much closer. Like, yes, I'm away from home and I want to go back to what I know where I feel comfortable. But hold on, fam.
Yeah.
You're that much closer to
Yeah.
where you want
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
That definitely spoke about it. And I think just to that point, just certain things he was saying, and there were many moments of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was because he might have expected something to turn out a particular way. And then like he would kind of sit back and then analyze the situation and understand like he could either move forward with gratitude or just sit there and allow this frustration to just manifest and like just fester. But one of the things another line that was that I underlined was, he says that I'm like everyone else. I see the world in terms of what I would like to see happen, not what actually does. And I think that also explains the fact that there are so many times when we become disappointed or frustrated or angry about the fact that things are not moving in the way that we would want them to move, because really there's like this divine thing that we may not entirely understand just yet, but there are certain things that we actually have to go through. And it's not something that you were expecting to go through because it's going to be something difficult, right? It's going to be, you don't want to have to go through a rough patch. You would like it to be perfect. You'd like the end result to be exactly the way you had planned it to be. But then when you realize that you actually needed to go through that in order for you to become stronger as an individual, there's divinity inside of that. And I think that's something that we see time and time again during Santiago's experience. I
think you should drop that gem that you always talk about around the expectations, because I love the fact that you brought that up again in terms of how we sometimes maybe shoot ourselves in the foot based on our expectations.
literally a conversation me and Fabiola had this past weekend.
Just yesterday, I feel like. Was it yesterday, I think? I think it was Saturday.
Like we literally like mess up ourselves just by our expectations. And it's crazy because right here on this page that I'm looking at too, it says, because I don't live in either my past or my future, I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man. You'll see that there is life in the desert, that there are stars in the heavens, and that tribesmen fight because they are part of the human race. Life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment we're living right now. And those expectations still are right now. They do.
I'm curious to know, I mean, don't spoil it, but I guess you're going to spoil it.
We're going to happen.
What?
Expect it. Only expectation you should have.
I know.
Talk to us, bro.
What's the deal with the sheep? Like, I'm dying to know. I feel like, I don't know why, I'm only, like, from where I'm at, it just seems like Santiago's, like, perception of the sheep or his flock, like, does something, is that, like...
He ends up selling his sheep, right? Didn't he sell them?
Yeah, he sold.
He ends up selling his sheep, and I think that
to fund his quest.
To fund the quest for his treasure. And I feel like the sheep... the role in which I saw them play, and I'm happy to hear other people's interpretations as well, but I felt like the sheep, the role that they played was their role was to help Santiago evaluate his definition of attachment. Like I saw the sheep as some type of extension of helping him understand attachment and what it is, and how sometimes we have to let things go to
think about that.
to move along. It's not like they don't still stay a part of us, but sometimes we have to sacrifice or let some things go
and
in order to.
His identity was around being a shepherd.
It's like you have to sacrifice or let some things go, and some of them might be very dear to your heart, but it might be necessary in shaping who you are in the future. So I think that happened multiple times. With his love with Fatima,
he kept bringing that up,
and then leaving the crystal shop. There was just all these moments of detachment that happened, and
so
I don't know.
Like like you were saying, there were many moments where he would bring that up about his experience with him being a shepherd and having sheep, and that was something that he knew. It was something that was very familiar, something he was very comfortable with,
something he can fall back on.
Exactly, and I think a lot of times people prefer to remain in comfort, but it's when you become uncomfortable, it's in those moments of being uncomfortable that you find that you're growing the most. You know,
that's deep. Yeah,
so I think that in every single time that he was actually growing through something and something crazy happened to him, he always thought back to the sheep because it brought him comfort, it brought familiarity, and so
that goes around one of my questions.
Tingling.
And so whenever he thought back to that, it was like, he also went through his self-reflection again. And it's like, no, I have to continue, because it was when he decided to continue that he ended up growing. He learned more and got closer to this treasure. And I don't know, it was just amazing to me.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at TJ and looking at his face. The deeper and deeper that we get with this book,
his face is lightening up.
No, his face is not lightening up. It's looking more and more like,
damn, I didn't read it.
Like, no, it's just looking like, what is this sorcery?
Fatima is the girl who he's in love with.
So not the
one that
woman.
you know.
No, not the Bakers.
What?
Okay.
No, she's not
the
a
merchant's
stripper.
daughter.
No, she's not a stripper. But yo, something I'm thinking about, man. One of my questions, and it ties around one of my questions, is that, like, why is it that when we're chasing our dreams, when we are in those moments where we can grow, we want to so badly go back to something that we can fall back on or something that we're comfortable with? For example, I know I had to check myself. Like, y'all know, I want to be able to connect with people through music. I want to DJ. I want to move the masses through sound, through music, right? But as I'm chasing that dream, a lot of times I catch myself like holding myself back and being like, no, let me fall back on teaching.
Because you're scared.
Let me fall back on teaching. Because that's something I know I can do. I've done it. It's safe. But I want to chase that dream so badly of like, when I tell y'all my connection to people through music is something I want so damn bad, but I'm like, no, Rowan, calm your ass down. Why is it that we do that, yo?
Yeah.
And it just made me think back to how Santiago, again, like you were saying, Fabiola Bebe, is that, like, as he is being called to grow and to go further, he keeps referring back to being the shepherd. It's like, damn, shut up about being the shepherd. And keep growing. Why do we not want to keep growing?
So the crystal merchant also was going through the same exact thing, right? It's like Santiago had this ability to recognize different things or methods so that this crystal merchant can find a way to expand his business because he's always wanted to become rich, and but he would always hold himself back. He mentions, he's like, I don't know how to deal with change. That's something that the crystal merchant says, is that he doesn't know how to deal with change. And the root of that, like TJ says, because you're scared, it's fear. It's fear. And that's often the reason why you decide you don't want to go into what is uncertain. You would prefer to remain in what you know and what is certain and what is familiar and what's comfortable, because outside of that, you really don't know what the other end is gonna be, or it's gonna be like. You don't know, because what you expect, you know for sure that what you expect, like deep down, is not necessarily exactly how it's going to pan out at the end of the day. Do you get what I mean? And I think, having that fear and that knowledge at the same time, it makes you want to avoid the uncertainty and stick with what it is that you know is already certain.
Yo, and I think that ties so beautifully to the moment where he is traveling with the alchemist and he is having that conversation about listening to his heart.
Yep.
And the conversation there, I think, is where it happens. So a couple of lines from that scene that really got to me that I think ties great to this question is, first, Santiago asked, he says, my heart is a traitor, the boy said to the alchemist when they had paused to rest the horses. It doesn't want me to go on. And then the alchemist responds, that makes sense. Naturally, it's afraid that in pursuing your dream, you might lose everything that you've won. And then Santiago asks, why should I listen to my heart? And the alchemist tells him a couple of more things, but ultimately he says, you'll never be able to escape from your heart. So it's better to listen to what it has to say. That way you'll never have to fear an unanticipated blow. Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than suffering itself, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of the search is a second's encounter with God and with eternity. And then Santiago's response is, why don't people's hearts tell them to continue to follow their dreams? And the alchemist responds, because that's what makes a heart suffer most, and hearts don't like to suffer. And then it says, from then on, the boy understood his heart. He asked it, please, never to stop speaking to him. He asked that when he wandered far from his dreams, his heart pressed him and sound the alarm. The boy swore that every time he heard the alarm, he would heed its message.
I have that underlined too,
and
Steph.
Yes, I just think that moment is so true. We become so crippled by the fear that we stop listening to the very thing that connects us to all the world and connects us to, I believe, things unexplained. Like our heart and our intuition are the most powerful vessels that we have, and fear literally cripples us from listening to them. And I think we have to embrace that. We have to embrace that fear and see it as a moment for us to connect with our higher purpose.
There's been times where I followed my heart and it's left me assed out. Like I don't know if I.
But were you actually listening to your heart though, bro?
Yes, I feel like there's been times where I followed my heart and it led me down a dark path. Not a dark path, but a path that I would, if I had just.
It doesn't say that following your heart is easy and it's always going to lead to this grand outcome. It says that it comes with suffering, but it's going to contribute to who you are as a person and better you off. That experience that you're talking about, what did you learn from it?
I learned never to trust another living soul again. At the end of the day, I get what you're saying, but sometimes I think there's also, you have to be logic, you have to use a bit of your common sense too. You can't just be
It's not to say that following your heart is always this, of course, your heart's not going to tell you to jump off a bridge.
It might.
No.
I think that in the context of this story, I think the heart is symbolizing our most deepest and purest desires. It's really not connected to anything that's harmful. At least that's the way I interpret it.
I'm with you on that.
I agree. And TJ, to your statement.
Silly ass statement.
It says that the alchemist answered. He said, Santiago asked, "Is that the one thing I still needed to know?" When he said, your heart is still capable of showing you where the treasure is. The alchemist answered, "What you still need to know is this: before a dream is realized, the soul of the world tests everything that was learned along the way." So you may make certain decisions and believe that you need to go in a particular way. Maybe, I don't know if it's the heart that's actually saying that, because I feel like the heart is more connected to your ultimate desire.
Or destiny.
To be honest, you know what I'm saying? That's really what I believe it is. But you might be drawn to make certain decisions along that path. But at the end of the day, it's not to say that you will not be tested based off of your current experiences or the experiences you already had. And in those experiences and in those tests, you'll continue to learn so that you'll be able to become stronger or learn what you need to learn for the next test that will come around in order for you to acquire that desire or reach that certain desire, which I feel like is still, I don't know if I feel like I don't know if you ever actually reached there.
I feel like it's an ongoing.
It is. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
You aren't asked out.
No, not now. But I've been asked out.
I mean, we all have been quote unquote asked out.
We have.
No, I get what you're saying, and I agree.
Yeah.
I think that you do. The when you follow your heart, you ultimately. I think the universe tests you, and you're put through trials to get to to achieve whatever it is you need to achieve. But it sucks though, because you always have to remind yourself that you always have to have an optimistic outlook, like things have happened to me and for a reason. And that's not always easy to
hard.
That's very hard.
It is hard as hell.
It's hard. Yeah. Mindset, man.
Yeah.
Changing your perspective.
That is the most hardest thing of all, managing your mindset.
Yeah, it is. It is. One of the things that I like that actually is there's a stagnant mindset, and then there's like I guess a growth mindset would be
opportunity mindset. Is that what she said earlier?
I'm not sure.
Oh, deficit. I said deficit and opportunity, but I think what she's saying is the same static
like that.
Or growth. And so you pointed out like his father saying that God will show you the way type of thing. And I think with his father was not noticing was that there's a lot of divinity within a particular person. And oftentimes what that means is that experience is going to allow you to uncover that and discover that itself. And so that's why the father remained where he was and actually was a bit envious of the fact that his son was able to go
travel
on and decide on that, on making that travel. You know what I'm saying? And then he actually went on.
Who are you looking at? Who are you looking at?
Did you guys? What did you just say?
No, I said he.
You know what you said.
No, wait, I didn't say anything bad.
Let's just keep going.
What? What
Your face
I said?
was crazy.
I was like, "What's happening? What did TJ say?" I got nervous.
Yeah.
Let's just
press on. Come back, baby.
Let's
I'm
take
here
it
with
back.
you.
Yeah. But so the father is in this stagnant mindset or static mindset where
gave
he's
his blessing. I said.
Yeah.
I said his
he
blessing.
did. Yes, he did give his blessing.
What do you think I said?
Oh, okay.
Fuck shit.
It's fine. I'm sure there was exactly, which is usually your vibe. But so he did give him his blessing, but at the same time he was a little bit envious. He's like, damn, I wish I actually went on an adventure the way that you are going to go on this adventure. So even though he's telling him his stagnant mindset is telling him like, allow God to show you here. What he doesn't know is that there's a lot of that actually happens from within that needs to be discovered through journey and through adventure and through experience. And that's the only way for that to work. And you'll self-discover the God from within.
Okay.
Yes, we're always searching externally
so the
for
book
that.
is essentially saying that there's no point in believing in God.
No, I don't think that it says that.
Our religion is within us. There's no point in change.
I think that God lives within us and lives in everything that's around us, and that we, instead of us always externally searching for that power and that divinity,
which a lot of people do, but
but we can look inside of ourselves and we'll be able to find that all of that lives within us already because we're creations of God. And I to that point though about the father, I respected the father for supporting his son.
Yes.
Because I don't think Santiago would have ever been able to be happily a shepherd without the blessing from his father. Because he didn't have to have that support.
What do you guys think of the prologue at the beginning, the one where the guy, the narcissist?
Yeah, looking in the water.
Yeah,
I barely remember it, babe.
The lake said that it was crying because it looked into his eyes and saw its reflection.
Yeah, I thought that was a deep message.
Does that tie into, because I'm not far enough in to know, but does that tie into like the book at all?
I don't
really know too.
I think it does. Again, I think all of these messages all turn back to self-reflection and self-transformation. And I think that the lake, I would say that in that moment, the lake was searching for, the lake was depending on the narcissist's beauty.
But it was just as vain as a narcissist. I felt like you're trying to say that we're all a little vain. It was like we're all like...
I don't think it's about vanity. I think it's about
looking within.
What's internal. I think it's something about that, what lives internally.
Well, his name isn't a narcissist. It's like the name is also suggests like, oh,
self-centered.
You're self-centered. You're into yourself. So then when the boy, he dies or something in the
narcissist.
The lake, the lake said that it cried not because he missed the boy, but because the lake saw itself in the reflection of the boy's eyes. Like the lake is also vain. Like it's
what I recognize is that there are two separate entities that are able to see the beauty within each other. Do you get what I mean? And so like when one has been disconnected from the other, and I think it is at a greater scheme of things, just bringing it back to the fact that we are all connected through this divine thing, this divine energy. I think
Paganism.
This divine energy, I think if there's like this level of disconnection, then we start to lose sight of that beauty. I don't know for sure how much this connects to the whole entire story, but that's what I'm taking from it, is that if we start to if we're disconnecting from our own reflection of ourselves, and I feel like our reflection of ourselves is also what I might see in other people around me.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And so if I start to lose that reflection and I don't connect to that anymore, then I'm starting to lose my sight or thoughts of the beauty that actually exists in our connection. And so if we're disconnected, then I no longer see the beauty in our connection because it's no longer there. It no longer exists. And so now I'm also disconnecting from this divinity that actually exists amongst us all as a community, or when we're connected. That's my take on it, but I don't know if that's really like
with that being said, I think that's a good translation to talk about love.
Oh yeah, my bucket.
Yes.
Which was the universal language in the book.
This is definitely the universal language. So I want to just talk about love in two different parts, because one of my favorite lines from the book has the definition of love, and I think I was saying that a little bit earlier. And then I'm also just thinking about love in terms of relationships.
Okay.
So the first thing that I really appreciated that this book showed us about love as it relates to relationships is through Fatima and Santiago. So Fatima, this is when Santiago was actually making his quest, and he was going across the desert to get to Egypt. He's pretty much closer than he's ever been throughout the entire story. And they have to stop at this oasis inside of the desert because there's this war that's going on. And so they need a place to kind of rest and stay safe.
Yes, ma'am.
And there is this woman there, her name's Fatima, and she calls herself a desert woman. Exactly. And the two of them fall in love. And it comes to a point where Santiago has to decide, I have more than enough money right now. I've achieved a lot. I could just stay here in the desert. I can get married to Fatima and I can just kind of stay here. And he tells this vision to the alchemist, and the alchemist urges him against stopping his quest to find his treasure because it'll end up turning into a regret. And so Fatima says to him right before, he leaves, like, I'm a woman of the desert. I'm going to be all right while you are going to search for your destiny. Yeah. She was like, I'm behind you and I want you to go and find your treasure and find your destiny. And I'm going to be here waiting for you when you get back.
You'll return like my father did for my mother.
Yes.
Go ahead, sis.
And she also acknowledges, and I think, Ro, you brought up this, you highlighted this, even though she was supportive of Santiago going off and finding his treasure, she still acknowledged her hurt, or how it was going to hurt her, and she was going to wait, but it was going to be painful because at the end of the day, she's still a woman who would still want her love close to her. But that just goes to show you how love is not selfish. It's not possessive, and it's not manipulative. Like, if you really love somebody, you're going to kind of be supporting them and moving them forward. And I'm telling you, that is so hard, especially when you have your own expectations.
Ooh, that word again.
Your own expectations of what you believe love should look like or how you want to experience love. It is so hard and sacrificial to do something like that. And I just respected Fatima so much.
Yeah.
She probably cheated.
What?
She did not.
Damn.
And so I would just want to fast forward again.
I'm just kidding.
I want to fast forward again about Santiago's realization of love later on when he was had to turn himself into the wind, and he was having a conversation with the sun.
Yeah.
And this is what he said about love.
I know exactly where it's at.
So the son asked him, it says, well, why did you say that I don't know about love? And Santiago responds, because it's not love to be static like the desert, nor is it love to roam the world like the wind. And it's not love to see everything from a distance like you do. Love is the force that transforms and improves the soul of the world. When I first reached through it, I thought the soul of the world was perfect. But later I could see that it was like other aspects of creation and had its own passions and wars. It is we who nourish the soul of the world, and the world we live in will either be better or worse, depending on whether we become better or worse. And that's where the power of love comes in, because when we love, we always strive to become better than we are.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's unconditional love
And
right
that's
there.
unconditional.
And that low-key ties it to one of my questions.
Go ahead and ask it, Seth.
Cat, man. So with the same the stuff that we all saw as important in this story, yo. So when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. So this was also as Santiago was talking to the sun, and something that I was thinking about, man, is now. Ooh, is that dandruff coming out of my head?
Ew.
Okay. As I'm just thinking, so as we're moving on through the month of March, long ass month, and as we're moving on through the year, what are some ways that we can truly strive to be better, or ways that we can truly strive to love unconditionally? I think Fabiola même qui fait dire ça la bébé, but like, what are some action plans that we can put into effect to be able to exist this way?
I think what is really important, what I think we need to realize is that a lot of times we can't just do this on our own. A lot of times people think that they need to go solo and do it completely by themselves. And I think that starts to become more selfish, or operating out of like a selfish type of mindset. And by that, I mean like in terms of like trying to get to certain goals in life or anything like that. And I'm just speaking to that right now. I think if we start to recognize the light that actually exists in us coming together as one, and we start to appreciate the light in everybody, not only are we discovering what's going on inside of us, but we start to recognize what's going on in those around us. And I think that's when we truly begin to love other people, truly and unconditionally. And so once we manage to find a way to do that, I think it would be good. And so one of the things that I would want to do is try to find ways to bring people into one space more often, and just be loving, you know what I mean? Find ways for us to be joyous, to give back, and give to one another, and not be selfish.
You said bring people into one space.
I don't want a joke.
No, I'm not going to say a joke.
Okay.
You said... Okay. Well,
Go ahead.
I said
know.
bring people into one space. This is after the virus is done. But
So you were saying a joke.
yeah.
Damn.
I agree. I think that for me, like unconditional love is. I need to start. I think a lot of people need to do this, but I need to start embracing the person I'm becoming instead of focusing on the person. I think we hold on to like this identity of who we were before
in the past.
Yeah, in the past, before things happen like this. I think people see themselves as like their pure, their untainted form before life happens, and you know, trauma and all these other things. But I think embracing it and growing and trying to just embrace the new person that you've become after those trials and tribulations you go through. That to me is like this. A one step toward kind of achieving or finding unconditional love within yourself. As far as unconditional love, like in like a romantic sense, I don't know, but that's like unconditional love, like
Yeah.
in
Look at
We
Steph's face.
What does that face mean?
Monkey on dust.
I thought that it was going to be unconditional love, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't. I think it doesn't have to just be romantic.
I consider them different. Like your love for your self-love and love for other people. I don't know. It's different for me.
I think that the greatest gift that we can ever give to anybody else is our own self-development. I think that's how we strive to
become better.
And also, in turn, the output, I think, will always be unconditional love. The more that we work on ourselves and face our own traumas and faults and work through our own growth, that stuff starts to radiate in everything that we do.
Everything.
And
everything.
And we already know just by the law of attraction, like things are contagious. Like your actions, your thoughts, the people you move around, they start adopting that. And then they start moving like that. And then the people they're around start moving like that. And then all of a sudden you have just a ripple of just that one moment where you decided to step back and work on yourself, magnified to thousands, maybe millions of people. Yeah. And so I just always think the greatest gift is what we do for ourselves, because that's all we really can control.
Yes, ma'am.
We can't really control anything else. So we provide unconditional love and divinity and grace to those around us through our own self-development.
Yeah. And TJ, you separated, loving yourself and loving other people. I think if you really love yourself, you recognize, I think we're all connected.
Yeah.
You know what
Period.
I mean?
We're all one.
We're all connected in one way or form. We really are. And I feel like there are certain vibrations that you will get from other people. And the reason being is because in some way, shape, or form, we're all connected. And so if you can find a way to truly love yourself, and that means like not selfishly, if that can make any sense to you, it's hard for me to find the right vocab for this, but if you could really find a way to love yourself, not selfishly, then you'll actually start to love other people as well in the same manner or in the same way. I can't separate the two.
Yeah, man. I feel like once you start to strive to be better, do better, you'll notice that everything around you is moving in that same way. Like I feel like you'll notice a different part of the universe like shifting as you start to shift your mindset, as you start to, again, this whole idea of do better, be better, man. But this book, yo, again, I definitely feel like it is something that we will revisit later on in our lives, and like there'll be more gems that comes from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this was just like part uno, but I definitely think in our lifetime with this book, there's going to be a part 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. And again, like I really appreciate y'all coming on this like little conquest with me. Like I feel like a little Santiago, and y'all were the people who were in the desert with me, and I really do appreciate that a lot. And just hearing the different perspectives that y'all brought to the table, like that's the shit that I live for.
Yeah.
And that's why I fuck with y'all real hardcore, yo. Because I could have read this book with any of my other groups of friends, but I specifically was like fiending to do it with y'all. I was fiending. I know I was fiending. Like I feel like I hit y'all up about this. I'm like, let's read The Alchemist.
A number of times.
I'm like, y'all reading?
So you're gonna pass the book on?
Now I have to pass it on, man. Which is
I can't wait to hear about the moment that you decide to pass it on.
I gotta pass it on. Whoever my mood is, yo, that shit's crazy. I have to pass it on to someone else, and I can't wait for them to get the gems that we got.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for bringing that, Ro.
Sure.
That was a good conversation. I feel like we could have talked about that all day.
All damn day. Not even gonna lie.
It's crazy because the word of the day, I think, links a lot to our conversation and some lessons that were taken from The Alchemist. And it's a quote. It says, your capacity to love yourself unconditionally is your gift to others. Embracing an optimistic, positive expression of yourself will inspire and encourage others to do the same. And so I just think that was a really strong message throughout The Alchemist and throughout our conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
And based on what we want to do. we are the only things that we can control. And so by you really stepping back and getting a hold of your own destiny, that is your greatest gift that you can give.
Yeah,
That's
man.
what's up.
The world deserves that, yo.
The world deserves it. And I think I said this in one of my like past videos. It's like the world needs your unique footprints on earth. Like it needs it. Like there's only going to be one you.
Even if your toes are not painted.
Even if your toes are not painted,
Crusty
which
and all.
mine are
Ashy too. Yeah.
ashy and unpainted feet and all.
Half
The world
painted,
needs it.
Chipping.
The world, like the world really
Bunions,
needs.
everything.
The world is not the same without your footprints on it. So walk and make noise, y'all.
I like
walk
that.
and make noise.
Yes.
Homework.
Yes. Homework, guys. Please, please, please. Okay, please take care of yourself inside of this pandemic. Make sure that you stay prayed up, stay sanitized up, and make sure you're eating good food. Don't load up on junk as much as it might be easy to do so because you're in the house. Go ahead and do some workouts inside the living room. Do whatever it is you have to do to stay active and take care of yourself. Detach from technology, social media. Have
As
some
much as you
time
can.
when you're in a book, where you're going outside with nature, taking a walk. Like literally, guys, do something good for yourself. So that is the first piece of homework that I'm leaving you with. And then when you get back in and get back on social media, you're going to head on over to the Beanstalk podcast.
Of course.
And hit that link in the bio and listen to our conversation and let us know if you've read The Alchemist. If you haven't, Google, sis. Okay.
PDF.
I
got you.
and that could be a good book that you read during this time, especially while we have it.
Yes.
And just know that we love you guys.
We do.
love you. And until again, during the apocalypse.
Wait for doomsday.
I'm just joking.
La fin du monde. That's what my mama keeps saying. She said we in the end times, yo.
We always in the end times.
I guess
Since
it's
the
all
beginning of time.
perspective. It's the
It's
end.
all perspective, guys. Mindset.
Yes.
Mindset.
Yes,
Don't
yes,
let
yes.
fear consume.
Please
And
don't.
Peace.
Hasta luego.